1.928 trillion naira for federal government, states, and local governments.
So more money going to the subnationals and the federal. What are they doing with it? At the time, we are also borrowing like fish,
All right, quickly, let's go through these minor pieces. PDP crisis. My group and I will align with another party if reconciliation fails. Sule Lamido.
Sule Lamido is speaking truth to himself and truth to power, to his other colleagues. We'll see how that
Are they listening?
How that aligns. So we align with other
forces,
excluding APC, or maybe APC too is in the cards. We'll see when we get how to cross when we get to the river.
Okay, hear this one. Nigeria's inflation rate drops for 8th consecutive month, now 14%.
Good news, good trend. MPR, that's the rate at which central bank lends to bank, hopefully will take a cue from this.
Following this.
And then there will be some easing. But I leave it to the headmaster of central bank.
Okay.
Cardoso.
This one should interest you. Corruption allegations. Reps summon Dangote and MD of DPRA. You understand, the downstream sector.
I not only understand, I also went through that value of shadows of death. What is the reps asking for? And why? Look, an allegation has been made. Let those who are going to prosecute. Yes, the reps have the right to also try and do their investigation. Why are they not doing their investigation all this while? I hope it is not going to be what is going to be in there for me, kind of syndrome.
This one, Supreme Court upholds president's power to declare emergency rule, suspend elected officials. Well, suspend, not sack.
Okay, so suspend.
But PDP says that is a threat to Nigeria's democracy.
Okay, now we either decide that we want rule of law, or
law of rule.
So, and when a judgment is passed, we should, if we want to appeal, this time around is the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court clearly said that, look, jurisdiction or no jurisdiction, this is what would have been. And then people, either because it does not favor them, are now shouting, crucify him, crucify him. Let us be disciplined in accepting those things we cannot change, and the serenity to know the difference between those that we can change.
All right. Malami to EFCC chairman. Recuse yourself. You cannot investigate me.
The sword of Damocles that was used at one point in time by the same Malami is hovering around his head. And as usual, it is either the EFCC chair or the judge or the justices are not from your side, or they are not doing your bidding, or they don't understand the law. Subject yourself as much as possible. Okay. And for the EFCC, naturally, we expect a fair hearing.
Okay.
A man or a woman.
Fair hearing.
A man or a woman is not guilty until proven.
All right. NIS, smugglers now use encrypted messaging apps, collaborate with criminal gangs.
The more reason why our cybersecurity experts, those involved in phishing and all that, must wake up, because if you reach a milestone, they will raise the stakes higher. And I believe that our digital economy experts are up to the task.
So the Nigeria Immigration Service is not crying wolf.
It's not crying. It's not crying wolf.
Budget 2026. Senate frowns on multiple plans, unclear implementation records.
Implementation has really not been at the stage that we expect. I know explanations have been given on that. Okay, so let's ask all those questions. Why are we not?
All right. That's it about the New Telegraph. The picture story on the front page of the paper shows Mr. President uh, Bola Tinubu, his wife Oluremi Tinubu, at a function where a book on late President Muhammadu Buhari was presented. The legacy of Muhammadu Buhari and the author of the book, Dr. Charles Omole, was there. The Gambian president, Adama Barrow, was also uh, part of the crowd.
Good.
Daily Sun and the lead story, Rivers Emergency Rule Judgment. PDP lawyers fault Supreme Court.
In faulting the Supreme Court, the PDP governors that took President Bola Tinubu to court, many of them are now aligned with President Bola Tinubu, tells you the very interesting aspect of our politics.
So the politicians will keep us guessing.
The politicians will keep us guessing.
Okay. Dangote, oil mafia worse than drug cartels, behind over 100 attacks on Port Harcourt refinery.
For the very first time in the history of oil and gas, an area that I also played for close to 30 years, we had somebody who will be able to stand and hold whoever by the balls. This needs to be investigated, like he rightly said, and we must look for how to ramp up local refinery capacity, which Dangote represents.
Well, so for now, the price war will continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. May we leave it there. Tinubu charges army to remain apolitical.
The army, our security agencies generally needs to remain apolitical, but the politicians should not continue to toy with what they should not toy with. Their training, their remuneration, internal sabotage, issues surrounding the rank and file. And Mr. President must also be sensitive that there are laid down rules for promotions, and anything done outside of that destroys camaraderie.
Okay.
And the esprit de corps.
Okay. How about this? PDP will come out of current challenges better, stronger, says McCarthy.
Amen.
Do you believe him?
I don't.
Okay. We must defeat enemies of Nigeria. Defense Minister charges soldiers.
Positive statement. Needs cooperation of all. Mr. President, those who wants to get on the seat at all costs, the entirety of Nigeria, security is everybody's business.
Okay. FIRS to raise 2026 revenue target to 35 trillion naira as Senate frowns at multiple budget rollovers.
Generally, in the fiduciary tax-wise, 2026 looks robust with quite a number of questions that are cropping up.
Begging for answers.
And the budget implementation, I think, again, the perception out there is that corruption is eating deep.
All right. The picture story on the front page of the Daily Sun shows two gentlemen. The one is the president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, and of course the chairman of the United Nigeria Airlines, Professor Obiora Okonkwo.
Great.
The Nation next. The lead story, Buhari didn't name successor to save life, keep APC intact.
In retrospect, there's some sense in that. At the end of the day, allegedly, Buhari was not routing for President Bola Tinubu. Eventually,
you mean rooting?
Routing.
Okay.
Routing.
Yeah.
Not routing.
Okay.
Okay. Not rooting for President Bola Tinubu. But he emerged and then he embraced him. So he belonged to no one and it was for everybody.
All right. Minor pieces. Supreme Court. President has power on emergency order.
The Supreme
So
Court,
nobody will debate that anymore.
by just one dissension, agreed that that's the way to go. That is the law.
The rider is that the president can suspend an elected official, but not sack him.
Not sack him, and can suspend if he feels there's a threat to the economy and life, and it's also for an extended period.
Okay. Boost for disposable income as inflation drops to 14.45%.
The boosts will be seen hopefully when the CBN committee, monetary committee, gets and we see some relative easing. Inflation is still high, but if the target is to get to 1 digit, we say we are on the road to goodness.
Okay, police to resume enforcement of tinted glass permit January 2nd.
I have my strong belief that...
Are your car glasses tinted?
Well, I have tinted glasses and I have approval.
All right, so you needn't...
The only problem now is that they are now saying all approval that has been given, we have to come for another set of approval. Police is not a revenue generation outfit. It is not something that
you are ready to go to court.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to engage.
When you return, you let us know.
I'm ready to engage. I don't think it's fair.
Okay. Tinubu, Buhari taught Nigerians public office is a trust, not a windfall.
Not a windfall. So it's not zero-sum game, and it is not do or die. Yeah.
That will just about do it for stories in the nation. I have the Guardian next. One big story on the front page. Supreme Court's verdict on emergency rule unsettles policy and power structure. It was bound to be so.
Quite a number of people, for reasons that, this is not skewing to what they wish to hear. Of course, the debate will still continue, but the law is the law. And we must recognize the fact that the Supreme Court has made their pronouncement. You shouldn't disagree, no doubt about that, but you can't disobey.
All right. Inflation outperforms Tinubu's target, eases to 14.45%.
Tinubu's target was 15%, so it's better. It's going on a good direction.
All right. Tinubu lauds Buhari's legacy virtues at biography launch.
Not surprising. Whoever is the president of the country today will do almost about the same, including Peter Obi, Kwankwaso, who else now, and Atiku. Politics in the air.
All right. House summons Dangote NMD PRA boss over renewed rift.
The House waited for Dangote to levy his accusations, and now what is it that they want to to find out that they cannot find out? Please allow the agencies of governments to do their
jobs,
their duties.
Okay. Next, we will entertain stories in this day. This day leads with this one. Tinubu, we are mobilizing all military assets against threats.
Good news. But what's achieved? I hope to see in the next few days and weeks and months ahead how this will help in reduction, not elimination, reduction of crime and criminality in Nigeria.
Federal government charts new path to tackle rising debt, mobilizes mass savings.
Again, the policies that have been ramped up, monetary, physical, and also fiduciary, are all geared towards getting more revenue to fund our operations. What's
All right. President Buhari taught Nigerians that being in public office is trust, not windfall.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu kept on reiterating that to the eternal memory of his immediate predecessor in office. Thank you.
Here, this one. Mahama, that's the Ghanaian president, he came. He's been installed as the Are Atayeto, that's the reformer of Ife.
Grew up in Ofa, if I'm not wrong, with his
Mm.
parents, and he started, his tutelage in that area. Again,
So it was like a come home.
a cultural.
Mm.
We have always had it, and I'm happy at that affinity.
Supreme Court, president not empowered by constitution to suspend governors and legislators. That's what the legal minds are saying.
Okay, some legal minds, not all of them.
But
People-
again,
people are-
the Supreme Court has spoken, so
yes.
the debate continues. Okay, let's take on the punch. We punch the prominent headline here. Petrol battlefield. Dangote importers locked in brutal price war. Did you see this coming?
I saw it coming, and
Yeah.
the only thing that I was not expecting at the level that we are seeing is the undercut deals. Import licenses free to give and all that, but should not be at the detriment of local refining capacity that we have.
And by extension, consumers.
And when you are giving these imports, are you actually checking what they are bringing in? What lab are they going to test it? You pass through this path before. Nobody is actually wanting to muscle out competition.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it should not be at a situation of just giving licensing and then perhaps, like Dangote is alleging,
Okay.
some things are going on that might be going on under the table.
Okay, Ngige, EFCC clash over missing passport in London.
Well, if passport is not missing, the accused will be unhealthy for trial and all that. So I wish Ngige all the best. Not just wishing him all the best, but I know that he's getting set for his son's wedding soon. I hope he gets the required bail to be able to attend that.
All right.
I hope and I pray.
All right. Here is startling one. Buhari believed Aso Rock gossip that I planned to kill him, Aisha.
Not only that, but then beyond the gossip, we had Jubril of Sudan and all that that came to be, and it was glaring that the family of Buhari did so much to extricate Mrs. Buhari at that time. So one is not surprised to hear this.
The Vanguard next. The lead story. Year-end festivities push inflation to 4-month high.
30 December is here. More tax to consumption, and if we take this up on there, more money in the hands of people who are coming from abroad, more money in the hands of locals, and more outings, security enabling. Yes, we expect, especially if it's not going to be imports led kind of inflation. In other words, we are trying to consume what we produce and the services we provide in here.
Okay, minor pieces. Senate kicks against multiple budgets in one fiscal year.
The question should be asked rightly. Why is it that we are having 2-3 budgets that we are varying forward? Capital budgets, 70% carried forward and all that. Is it that we are not making realistic budget, or is it that our priorities are not aligned with the realities of what we
Or
get?
for that matter, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right?
So let the questions be asked and let the logical answers be given.
All right. Interagency rivalry to blame for bandit allegation. Kwara government officials are telling us.
Also, political atmosphere and fifth columnists within the military and within the locals also play a deadly part in what we are seeing in the intractable security problems we are
Okay.
trying to tackle.
Terrorism sponsor, ex-governor Bafarawa carpets Bello Turji. You know, Turji is the bandit kingpin.
Yes, who has alleged that some ex-governors mentioned
Two of them,
Zamfara
and Sokoto.
So I wouldn't know if it is Bafarawa that he was talking about.
Bafarawa is Sokoto now.
Yes, but Bafarawa, then we had Bafarawa's successor too, you know. So it's a season of mudslinging, attack me, attack you.
Yeah, okay.
Takami Ajaboyu.
Reps wade into Dangote NMD-PRA dispute. Summon parties.
But please, let's get to the roots of the kind of problems that we have. Now, reps get into it. Typically, what you find, Jones, is that ethnic bigots we get in there. Please don't touch our son, don't touch her, and all that, witch hunting. All manner of things will be drummed up.
Okay. Emergency rule. President can suspend elected officials. That's the stand of the Supreme Court.
That is the stand of the Supreme Court, extended to say it should not be for too much of an extended period, and that if the president, under the relevant section 305, finds that threat to life and properties is going to be affected, he has all the power to do what he did.
All right. Two picture stories on the front page of the Vanguard. The one shows Mr. President at the book launch on former President Buhari, and the other shows former Vice President Professor Oshibajo at the commissioning of the Modukwe and Folonsho Alakija Medical Research Center.
Super.
Final, last but not least paper is the Daily Trust. Dangote's troubles. Dangote is saying you don't use imports to checkmate domestic potential. That's a valid point.
Not just valid. Dangote remains or aligned with those who say that Dangote is a man of the century, not just of the year. Kudos, yes.
All right, minor pieces. At 14.45%, inflation drops below Tinubu's target.
Good news.
Okay. Gunmen abduct 18 travelers, 11 rescued.
Bad news.
How 70-year-old man was killed in Kano.
Ugly news.
Okay. Supreme Court backs Tinubu on Rivers emergency rule.
That's a nice one. Discussions will continue on that, but we must stick as law abiders.
Okay.
The Supreme Court has made its pronouncement as a good one for Mr. President.
Alleged persecution. EFCC accuses opposition of seeking immunity.
Expected.
Immunity from prosecution.
If you are not guilty, you should not be afraid.
Earlier, that's the governor, Akume, that's the SGF, renew feud as supporters clash.
Again, that is ugly and bad.
Buhari left behind reputation of integrity, Mr. President is reminding us.
Questions, comments, commentaries, the discourse will continue.
All right, and the debate
continues.
Heightened. Okay. Picture story, front page Daily Trust shows Alhaji Aliko Dangote Please read these stories in the papers, become more informed and entertained, and so you stop relying on your guts. We are done. Let's thank Mr. Fatunke for his intervention.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas ahead.
Merry Christmas to you too. Merry Christmas to Nigerians. Please play safe.
We are done. Bye-bye now.
The housing sector with estimated shortage of 22 million units, side by side with luxury dwellings in cities made possible by forced eviction of poor communities. Many of these houses, note that, do not fulfill any housing needs and remain vacant. Okay? So you eject the poor from their shanty towns to make way for splendid houses compared to those occupied by American billionaires. But then those houses are just showpieces. They're just monuments. They don't serve any utilitarian purpose beyond maybe used for money laundering and all of that. But they're there. They're there. So that's the level of inequality that we are talking about. Okay. I have, to further underline the issue, I have on page 10 what I call selected countries in 2018 mystery index, and Nigeria is one of 10 most miserable country in the world. And that table also tells you the major contributing factor why these countries are miserable. In the case of Nigeria, which is number 6, it's, guess, unemployment. It's unemployment. Nigerians are extremely miserable because a lot of them are unemployed. Let me digress to tell the story of a young man, well, not so young now, a friend of mine, and came to my office to report his nephew. And he said, Prof, anything you can do, even if it means that he will come to your office and stay for some hours of the day. I said, has he come to that? He said, yes, it has. What happened? He said, his idleness has led to his putting in the family way 2 girls. 2 girls, because all he does, sit at home, watch television, African magic. So, idleness, of course, the devil will find some work for idle hands. So, unemployment is not just a debility, it is one that comes with a lot of other woes. And of course, I don't need to tell this audience that crime, banditry, and all associated woes are very much related to unemployment. I say also that it is not that we are bereft of ideas or programs to tackle both poverty and inequality. On page 12 of my paper, I iterate a list of programs that are state-inspired, and they date back to 2 decades or more. They include National Directorate of Employment. Okay.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to bring our guest speaker and welcome into our midst His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Oshibajo.
This poverty alleviation intervention, National Directorate of Employment, Directorate of Food, Road and Rural Infrastructure, Better Life, Microfinance Schemes, Anchor Borrowers Program, Subsidy Reinvestment and Empowerment Program, and etc. and so on. So, the paradox then is that you have a plethora of state-inspired poverty alleviation programs. Despite that, Nigeria remains the poverty capital of the world with extremely high inequality. So, when we're talking of advancing options, we must be very clear exactly what we are doing. You cannot be talking of more programs when you have not done a post-mortem concerning the death or...
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria.
I was speaking to the riddle of a plethora of state-inspired poverty alleviation programs resulting in what is obviously a contradiction, namely Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world with extremely high inequality. I say that part of the answer to the riddle is that these programs, some of them at least, were not well conceived, and certainly most of them not well implemented. I quote the head of Transparency International in Nigeria, Musa Rafsanjani, who said that most of these programs were instruments to siphon public funds in the name of poverty eradication. I recall that the one under the last administration, there was a lot of controversy. Dr. Christopher Kolade had to resign his appointment, and later it was revealed that the program was far from being transparent. The ongoing one, social investment program, laudable as it is, have been criticized because of the shoddy way it has been administered, not the least Aisha Buhari, who said, I'm quoting her, so I don't know what the social investment is. Maybe it worked out in some states. In my own state, Adamawa, only a local government benefited out of 22. And she went on to say that failed woefully in Kano. I had quoted this actually from one of my Friday columns in the Punch, which I called Aisha Buhari, Conscience in the Shadows. If you had access to the Punch today, the front page story is actually about the social investment program and other poverty eradication programs of the administration. So I'm trying to answer the question, why does poverty persist, extreme poverty and inequality persist in the face of so many poverty alleviation interventions? That's what led me to the point I just made. Then, of course, I go on to say that poverty, when you do a profile or a mapping of poverty, there's a demographics of poverty, there's a spatial aspect of poverty. The North is poorer, obviously, than the South. And even within states, there are spatial differences in the incidences of poverty. That takes me to section 3 of my paper, which I call averting worst case scenarios. And the point I make here is that unless we double up on what we have to do, the situation will get much worse. And in saying this, I have support from the latest World Bank biannual economic update on Nigeria, presented on 2nd December 2019. And it warned that with the economy projected to grow by 2.1% in 2020 and 2021, in the face of an annual population growth rate of 2.6%, many more people, close to 30 million, may fall to extreme poverty by 2020. So the point is that we don't even have time. The situation is not just dismal, it is desperate, it is urgent. Indeed, that same report went on to say that if oil prices were to plummet back to what it was in 2016, that Nigeria is extremely likely to enter another recession. And you and I know what those years, maybe 2 years of recession cost this country. So, even though the federal government has announced a policy to lift 10 million people annually out of poverty, that policy will be challenged by the hard realities of the economy and of the failure of our projects. In order not to take too much time, and because we have other discussions, and I'm eager to listen to them myself, let me begin to focus more now on some suggestions that I have made in the paper. I've said that to avoid a grow worse scenario, we must do a comprehensive audit of all development activities with a view to mainstreaming the creation of jobs. This will mean, necessarily, that policies or technologies that are good in themselves but will lead to job losses or will not enhance job creation will be abandoned for those that are employment friendly. Okay, fine. South Africa already has a problem with that. They already have a foothold with new technologies, what is now called the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, using drones and so on. But South Africa has now realized that those technologies increase unemployment. Okay? that unless someone stays in the driver's seat in order to drive the adaptation of these new technologies, it will very well worsen unemployment problems. Ditto for Rwanda. Rwanda now uses drones to distribute drugs, life-saving blood donations to some rural areas, and almost every part of Rwanda can be reached expeditiously with new technologies. But the downside, as I just said, is that these technologies, good as they are, will worsen unemployment. I also talk about the much talked about but little implemented human capital development, which we must now jumpstart. And in doing this, we must recalibrate our educational system altogether. So I say, in place of an educational system manifesting the symptoms of diploma disease, what is required is a resurgence of technical and technological education that is made fit to use and emphasize skills that are relevant to industrial and service sectors. Does this mean that we jettison tertiary education? Of course not. I spent most of my career in the university. So I cannot be the one to advocate a jettisoning of minding more concretely tertiary education. By the grace of God, I think many people here went to university. I certainly did. Some of my classmates are here. And when I was at the University of Ife as an undergraduate, the degrees awarded by Ife are the equivalent of those awarded at Oxford. No exaggeration. They were the equivalent. So we had it. We are not looking for something that we never had. We only want to bring back what we had before. Nigeria's universities were world class. Expatriate teachers, they all roamed our universities and ensured that we had quality education. So I'm making 2 points. I'm saying that we need to look more at technical and technological education in the light of the need to adapt to changes in technology, emphasize technology more, and I think the federal government already has a policy around that. Apart from that, we need to have centers of excellence in order not to be laggard compared to the rest of the world, so that our degrees can be respected at home and abroad. So, those are complementary agenda that we need to talk about. Then mass education, which I specify, because there's a linkage between illiteracy and mass poverty. So we have to run on 3 legs, as it were: mass education, qualitative education, building centers of excellence, and then reviving what the polytechnics, craft institutions were meant to do. They've deviated from what they were meant to do, but we need to come back to that. Also, I say that job creation is not something that the government gives like a grant. No, it's not. Most of it will be done by Nigerians themselves. But you and I know that the environment has to be more propitious than it now is. Okay, we made some progress on the ease of doing business. That's a good one. But there are still hurdles that need to be addressed. I refer to the ADB statistic recently issued that Nigerians spend $14 billion annually on petrol and diesel-powered generators. $14 billion. So if there's a way we can pump some of this money into revving up, revitalizing the power sector, that will do a great deal towards job creation. So Nigerians, already entrepreneurial, already creative, then have the auspices to create jobs for themselves. At any rate, government isn't doing very much for the average Nigerians compared to when I was growing up. Okay. Also, I mentioned that if we are able to do this, we will begin to stem the exodus of young men to Europe, to the Maghreb, to the US, where they are often brutally treated and sometimes ejected. Also, I say that the states must come to their own. Some of the states are as populous, as endowed, as some countries in Europe. We all know that. So, if the federal government isn't doing very much, nothing is wrong with the states beginning to step into that gap. And some states are already doing that, because the latest World Bank report said some states are already creating jobs, but maybe not in such quantities as to reverse a downward trajectory. So the states must come to their own. We've talked a lot about restructuring. It hasn't happened, and it will not happen for a couple more years or more. But what are we going to do in the interim? So the point to be made is that the states must come more into their own, look for alternative. I'm happy there are several state governors here. Alternative ways of making life less harsh for the people that they govern. I mentioned too that the regional imperative, whereby the states are coming together to leverage upon their natural advantages, geographical proximity, and so on, is a good thing to do, and it's the way to go. Statism cannot redeem us, and there's a lot of statism still around. I'm happy that that's already done. What we need to do, what we need to do is to jumpstart its work in such a way that it can become a regional behemoth. It all started in the Western region. We know that. All of this started in the Western region. The series of first in Africa, done by the Western region. There's no reason why we cannot begin to look at harnessing our resources, cooperating in such a way that we begin to explore and exploit the opportunities presented by proximity. I'm getting to the end of my paper gradually. Of course, there are political issues that have to be addressed, obviously. Okay? We've talked about corruption, but that's not the only problem. There are ethnic differences. There are geographical differences. Okay? The need to redeem power itself. Power itself has to be redeemed from itself. There's too much arbitrariness in the state sector. Okay? And I don't need to tell any stories because the facts are already well known. But the issue is that if you don't resolve political issues, it will be difficult to resolve economic issues. Because instability, of course, is the obvious consequence of the kind of political problems that we have. The rule of law must be respected, not just rhetorically, but in practice. Now, I mentioned something that was written by somebody I call one of our best intellectuals, Dr. Obadiah Melafia. Permit me to quote him. It's titled, "Why is it that Africans never plan for the future?" Of course, it may be a loaded or presumptuous title, but there's a lot of truth in it. And what he had to say is that our system cannot absorb the relentless pressures of geometric population growth, slow growth, massive unemployment, uncontrolled urbanization, mounting slums, deepening poverty and inequality, widespread insecurity, violence, criminality, egregious social injustice. Apart from the outworkings of climate change, a weak naira exchange rate, rising debt, terrorism, lawlessness, and divisive politics, all of which he says are leading us down a dangerous road. So in my conclusion, I ask the question, how do we avoid going down the dangerous road that Melafia foresees? And that brings me to the last section of my paper. Now, we must go back to population growth. When we were young, it was said that, population control is just a stratagem of the Western powers to keep us down. It's a neo-colonial, as we call them, neo-colonial stratagem. But that is no longer true, even if it was true before. Now, according to a recent report, almost 70% of existing families have large family sizes of 6 or more persons. 6 or more persons, large families, in a time of recession and post-recession. So, we must go back to governments spearheading this. Throw away all